What's up, basketball fans? Welcome to the Raptor Report. It's time to talk about the Toronto Raptors and the Bruce Brown situation because we got a little bit of an update from Adrian Wojnarowski. So I'm going to be discussing that in today's video as a little bit as to what teams could be interested in Bruce Brown as well. So if you're ready to watch this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you wish to hit the subscribe button as well, that'd be very much appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, there's no shout out for today's video because no one asked me for a shout out in last video, but let's talk about Adrian Wojnarowski. We know he's been doing this for a few months now where he goes on threads and fans ask him questions and he answers them. Now, a Toronto Raptors fan was asking him, is there any traction being made in terms of Bruce Brown getting traded next week? And Adrian replied saying, Toronto is fielding offers, a lot of interest, no rush. Now, my first thought when it comes to this is I know I've mentioned this in my previous videos as well was, he got asked one time as to what the Raptors are doing regarding the OG Anunoby and Pascal situation. And they said they're not in a rush. And 36 hours or a couple of days later, you saw OG Anunoby get traded to the New York Knicks. But in terms of this, I think Bruce Brown, it could be something that the Raptors do wait for at the very last minute to see if they can maybe get a team that's desperate enough to give up a little bit more, right? Because as we get closer to the trade deadline and even trade deadline day, what really implicates that, why a team would want to give up more is their competitors and some of the moves they make. And you have to keep in mind, teams like I'm not saying the Boston Celtics, Milwaukee Bucks, 76ers will be, competing for Bruce Brown. But when you talk about certain teams, even out in the West, when you see top contenders make moves to really improve their roster, that's when you see other teams get really desperate. And maybe Masai Ujiri can prey on their desperation to give them a little bit more. But I will say one thing in regards to this. I do hope the Toronto Raptors do try to make a deal because I don't want this to become a situation similar, not too similar, but when we recall the Goran Dragic situation where the Raptors did get Goran and Precious Achiuwa in a sign and trade for Kyle Lowry, I thought to myself that the Raptors should have really traded Goran that summer rather than waiting into the season. And we saw how that played out. The Raptors ended up giving a first-round pick in exchange for a second-round pick for Thaddeus Young and traded Goran Dragic for that. So I think the Raptors should definitely capitalize on this opportunity that they have a window here where if the Raptors do want to trade Bruce Brown, you don't want to take this into next season where, God forbid, if he gets injured or worse, teams aren't desperate enough, you're not getting the offers. Not all of a sudden, maybe you trade him for a couple second-round picks. I think the market is there for Bruce Brown now. You absolutely have to look to make a good deal. Maybe the Raptors aren't getting the offer that they want, right? The Raptors did set the bar pretty decently high for Bruce Brown. Their asking price currently for Bruce Brown is a first-round pick and a young player. Now, before people say Masai's always got a high asking price, you've also got to keep in mind these are the new negotiation tactics when we talk about, talking about trades, moving players. The asking price always starts from here, and then you can negotiate your way down. So if a team, let's say, gives you a good role player and a first-round pick, Raptors may take that deal saying, well, you know what, we wanted this, but it's okay. It's a fairly decent deal as opposed to just saying they want a first-round pick because then teams will try to lowball them. So it'll be interesting to see what the Raptors do, but we do have to talk about some teams that may be interested and Bruce Brown's contract, which could come into huge play when it comes to trading for him. Now, in terms of Bruce Brown, we saw that big contract he signed with the Indiana Pacers this offseason of 2 years, $45 million contract, but the second season was a team option. Now, as I stated, I think the opportunity for the Raptors to trade Bruce Brown would be now rather than going into the summer and then going into next season to see if you could get a better deal. This is a great offer for a lot of teams, not because of his big salary, but because of that team option. So if a team, let's say, decides to trade for Bruce Brown and there's mutual agreement as to both parties really liking the fit and teams liking Bruce Brown on their team, what they can do is decline that team option and then maybe sign him to a contract that's $2 or $3 million less, but maybe include more terms. So example, you can sign him to a 4-year, $80 million contract, maybe a few million less if you want to. And ultimately, I think that works out for both teams as well. Now, in terms of some of the teams that will be interested, we'll talk about some of the teams, but also as to it's going to be very difficult to trade for Bruce Brown because it's not something where he's making $8 million or $12 million. He is making a ton of money. So we do need to keep in mind that when you take a look at this chart here, a lot of contending teams and a lot of playoff teams are already deep into the luxury tax. So when we talk about trading with them and them trading for Bruce Brown, you do have to keep in mind when you look at teams like the Golden State Warriors, the Clippers, the Phoenix, the Bucks. Again, you go down this list, every single one of these teams, and even New York, who's been heavily rumored to be interested in Bruce Brown's services, you take a look at how far they are into the luxury tax, 161.6 million into the luxury or into the salary cap, and we know the salary cap is at around $136 million. So this is where it becomes difficult because you cannot trade Bruce Brown and take back even a contract that's making a few million less unless they have a trade exception. So again, unless they've created a trade exception from another trade, then maybe they can use that trade exception. But if the Raptors are to trade are to trade Bruce Brown to one of these playoff teams, they have to take on a contract that is similar or a little bit more than what Bruce Brown is currently making. So it's going to be an interesting situation for both the Raptors and a lot of playoff teams when we talk about trades happening between the two, because the Raptors very likely will have to take on a bigger contract that may not be as attractive, or they're going to have to take on two smaller contracts, which will be equivalent to $22 million or a little bit more than that. So we'll see what happens. In terms of Bruce Brown, I quickly want to touch upon his stats as well. And I think he's quite obvious. There's quite a reason why there's a big market for him. So let's quickly talk about Bruce Brown as well. Now, in terms of Bruce Brown, he's still a very young player. He's only 27 years old, listed at 6'4", 202 pounds, but he does play a lot bigger than his size. And when we talk about his statistics, as you see there, he's averaged 11 points the last few seasons, and he's one of those players that's not going to shoot the three-point ball exceptionally well. He's a low volume shooter, and although he's shooting 35% right now, on only 2.3 attempts, he's someone that can come in and provide quality minutes. Again, his free throw percentage has been great the last few seasons. So it's one of those things. He's listed at 6'4", but he's a great defender. He plays much bigger than his size. And you look at the rebounds he's averaging, is pretty respectable for someone his size. And he also provides really quality minutes. Now, when we talk about playoff teams being interested in him, it's not because, he's going to be a starter in the NBA in the future. What he does is complement star players and all-star players so well. Now, for example, when we talk about players, there's always that question mark with a lot of playoff teams when we talk about trading for certain guys. It's always the fit. Now, why Bruce Brown makes so much sense for a lot of playoff teams is because when you think about guys, I'm not using teams as an example, I'm just using players. When you think about guys that have the ball in their hands a lot, LeBron, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, what do? They have the ball in their hands a lot. They also attract a lot of attention from defenses. And that's when guys like Bruce Brown come in, because he plays so well off the ball. He's able to make those smart reads. He can cut. He can also pass the ball fairly well. So that's where Bruce Brown really, really helps a lot of playoff teams that have all-star players that are ball dominant, because he can play off of them, but also help the team win and score some points. And most importantly, provide some really good quality minutes. I think that's the most important thing for playoff teams is when your starters are resting, how important is your bench going to be and how much of a lead they're going to give up, right? So Bruce Brown is a really, really good role player, and I can see why a lot of teams would want him. And also quickly, before we end the video, I do want to quickly touch upon the Raptors as well and what they should particularly look for when they're trading Bruce Brown, excuse me. Now, taking a look at the Raptors roster, of course, aside from Bruce Brown, I do want to say there's a lot of question marks. You got Scotty, you got RJ, you got Emmanuel quickly. You got obviously Grady Dick and Jakob Poeltl likely staying for the time being, but there's a lot of question marks as to, what's going on with Chris, Dennis, Gary, and some of the other guys as well, like Jalen McDaniels, Thaddeus Young, Otto Porter. Otto Porter, Thaddeus Young, and Gary Temple are all expiring contracts, so can they get something from them? And then most importantly, you do need to see what you have in guys like Javon Freeman Liberty and also Kira Lewis, because those are two players, or excuse me, not to disrespect Marquise Noel in any way. Those are three guys that are going to be heading into free agency. And I could strongly say two of them are going to get swooped up by another team if the Raptors don't give him an opportunity. There's no doubt about it, especially Javon Freeman Liberty's been playing really well in G League. So if the Raptors do want to trade away someone, let's say example like Dennis, I think this is the season to do so. Again, similar to what I mentioned with Bruce Brown, you don't want to go into next season and then all of a sudden you're not getting good offers, and then all of a sudden the best thing you're getting is second round pick, right? So I think the time to move guys like Dennis is now, but also to free up an opportunity for those three guys at the very bottom, point guards, to see what you have in them before teams come in and sign them to a multi-year contract this offseason. So it'll be interesting. But in terms of the Raptors, I do think they should, if they're able to acquire a young center, athletic one, someone who's able to space the floor. I know Jonte has been doing a great job, but if the Raptors could use him more so at the power forward position, then get a center that's able to defend and, be a little bit more of a rim protector and also space the floor, that would be an excellent get for the Raptors. And again, right now, the Raptors are just trying to fill holes in the roster for the near future. So we'll see what happens. They do have many opportunities. And although the asking price is first round, I mean, do not be surprised because the Raptors have prioritized getting players in return as opposed to just picks. You know, they did that with OG Anunoby, and they were trying to do that with Pascal Siakam, but it seemed like not a lot of teams were interested in giving up young players. Also, because Pascal was stating that he won't re-sign with them, so it'll be interesting to see what the Raptors get. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think? Which team? Let's do this. Give me one team, a prediction of who you think Bruce Brown will be traded to, and what do you think the Raptors will get back? So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I do have a trivia question for you today. And the trivia question for today is, who leads the NBA in three-point percentage? Is it A, Kevin Durant? Is it B, Steph Curry? Is it C, Buddy Hield? Is it D, Grayson Allen? Or is it E, Jakob Poeltl? So whoever answers this trivia question correctly first in the comment section gets a shout out in my next video. So that will be it for today's video. If you're still watching, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and that will be it. So thank you once again, and I hope you guys have yourselves a great day.